Welcome to WagerTalk TV, another edition of Ask the Experts. I'm Kelly Stewart. So, of course, Teddy Covers is joining me at Teddy_Covers. And we have a special guest today on Ask the Experts. I can't even talk. Marco D'Angelo. I know he doesn't get expert questions that often, but here he is. Okay, guys. We get a lot of these roundabout questions, so I'm just going to make it into one big question. A lot of handicapping questions. Teddy, how do you handicap your own games?
Well, let's start with this simple fact, okay? Rome wasn't built in a day, flat out. So whatever process you're going to get involved with is going to take you time. All right. So things that I use include, and there's so many, but your track record, the history of these teams and coaches in similar situations. I'm interested in the matchups. What are the strengths and the weaknesses of the two teams? The injuries and how those are going to affect the strengths and the weaknesses. I'm interested in the spot. Is it a particular pay attention spot or a particular not pay attention spot for any given squad? But for me, really, the number one factor is, and will continue to be, are these two teams being priced correctly at this time? And that has everything to do with power ratings. I encourage you to go back and look at the Sports Betting 101 video on power ratings if you want to learn on how to start creating them. But for me, that's a big piece of the process. Oftentimes, in my opinion and in my philosophy and in my strategy, I look at the markets as being behind a team's current form, and by adjusting my power ratings relatively quickly to the market, that's how I find the majority of my wagers.
So before I go to Marco, I'm going to backtrack. We did do a video on power ratings. If you guys want to get involved in your own power ratings, there's some really awesome stuff on that video. If you're too busy, you're a weekend warrior, you just want to have just a little extra help on stuff like that, we have that at WagerTalk. Our buddy Ralph does power ratings to start the season. He's so nice, and he shares it with all of you guys. And then you can adjust accordingly throughout the season. So it kind of gives you a little leg up if you don't have, Teddy, what would you say? You spend two months on power ratings probably for college football and NFL?
Easy.
At least. So if you don't have an extra 2 months of time on your hands, like myself now included, I've learned I'm not going to spend the time on it when I have such a great network around me. I can share the information I have. You guys are nice enough to share your power ratings.
Well, I mean, one of the concepts that we talked about in the power ratings video was no one's going to create your own. You're not going to create your own power ratings out of scratch. So you find some power ratings that you like, and that's where you start. So certainly Ralph Michaels' power ratings would be an excellent place to start.
All right, Marco.
Another great place to do power ratings for a starting point would be our own recently acquired Gold Sheet.
Sure.
Gold Sheet has power ratings. That's a great place. And I've got 3 points for a beginner. It's very simple for me. And the power ratings is the first. Whether you're doing your own or using a trusted source, you have to have some idea of what the number should be to have a starting point when you're handicapping your games. Mm-hmm. Handicapping football, since that's the most popular sport, that's where everybody that is going to be a self-handicapper, that's the first sport they're going to do. Let's face it, you know, it's going to be football, whether it be NFL or college. The simplest thing that I can tell you, you've got to use the stats, but the most basic stat, and it's one of the most powerful ones that tells you the true strengths of the teams, yards per play. You've got to go to yards per play, both offensively and defensively. That's going to be where you start and finish your handicapping. Then you tweak it. My third thing, and that's where my area is, and this is something you have to develop. You're not going to learn this overnight, is you talked about finding the spots. There's scheduling dynamics. Is this a bad schedule spot? Is this team coming, playing back-to-back games on the West?
Some of my favorites. Sandwich spots.
Sandwich spots. Yes, you got to find all those are intangibles that I feel the market doesn't properly adjust to. They look at the raw numbers, and and when you get into advanced metrics and everything else that you look at.
The math guys don't care that it's a look-ahead game.
Sure.
And I completely understand that. But from a situational perspective, which is more of what a handicapper I would say is, those are little diamonds in the rough. And I'm going, hey, maybe Northwestern can beat Michigan in this spot. And while they didn't end up winning the game, they got the cover. So lots of little tidbits like that. Teddy, what else are we missing here? Do you have anything to add?
Well, I mean, when it comes to handicapping your games, even the best people in the world at any given sport are going to hit 55 to 60%. You're going to be wrong all the time. You're going to be wrong every day. So accept that it is a process, not something, we started with Rome's not built in a day. You said be patient. It's a process. Recognize that.
All right, Mark, I'll let you have the last word.
Yeah, throw the other cliche. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. Throw
But
it out
sprinting's
there.
so much fun. All right, guys, make sure to listen to the Wager Talk podcast each and every Thursday. Just search for Wager Talk podcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and any other major podcast networks.